Hello! This is Jacob, again, and it's time for another fanfic reading. This time, I'm doing a reading of Little Mac's Hero by Maran. Enjoy!
Junior, it's your turn to pick out a bedtime story,
said Ma. Little Mac, or Junior as he was sometimes called, eyed the bookcase in his bedroom before turning to look at his ma.
Do you reckon I'm, too old for bedtime stories now that I got my mark?
He rubbed the oversized green apple half on his flank.
Well now, when it comes to bedtime stories, all that matters is if you think you're too old,
answered his mother.
But I was gonna read to AJ anyway, so I might as well read to both of ya.
She rested her hoof on Applejack, pale against the filly's darker orange coat.
When you put it that way, I suppose it makes sense.
Little Mac felt relieved. After all, getting a cutie mark was a big enough change by itself. No need to go switching his life around all at once. Little Mac walked over to his bookshelf and read through the familiar titles. There was Little Homestead on the Prairie, which was one of his sister's favorites, and next to it was the collection of ancient legends from the early days of unification that he tended to come back to. However, for reasons he couldn't quite put his hoof on, he wasn't exactly feeling it that night. Maybe it was because of his new mark, but he didn't think that was the only reason.
Sugar Cube, are you stalling or are you really having trouble deciding?
Ma stepped closer to him.
I can decide if and he can't.
AJ grinned.
Shush, AJ. Let Lil Mac say his piece first.
I'm having trouble deciding,
answered Little Mac. He hooked the tip of his hoof on the top of a book spine and pulled it out. The cover showed a dashing unicorn stallion wearing a crown and chainmail, surrounded by armored unicorns and pegasi, and a single earth pony dressed as a bard. Maybe that was what felt off.
See, I want to hear an old fantasy legend, but none of them have earth pony heroes. At least, none of the ones we have. Earth ponies are always sidekicks.
Why does it matter what tribe the hero is if it's a good story?
His mother tilted her head.
Little
Mac struggled to put his feelings into words.
I just need to see that an earth pony like me can be a hero.
Oh, well now, I can understand that.
Little Homestead on the Prairie has an earth pony hero,
said Applejack, pointing to the book. Rolling his eyes, Little Mac said,
What did Laurel do that was heroic?
Why, she...
His sister trailed off as she crinkled her brow.
Alright, I see your point. But what about the story of Matty Hoss and Cogburn bringing the murdering outlaw Cheney to justice? Now, them were some heroic earth ponies.
Yup. But that story doesn't have any fantastical magic. I want something more like the old legends.
Old legends, huh?
Ma brought her hoof to her chin.
I reckon I got a good story you'll both like. I just gotta go find it. Wait right here.
She trotted out of Little Mac's bedroom. The siblings looked at each other.
Do you suppose Ma bought a new book?
Asked AJ. Little Mac shrugged.
Maybe, but why hide it then?
When their mother returned, the book she carried in her mouth was not new. It had a weathered cover of cardboard and fabric.
Ma, was you hiding that book the same place you hid the hearth-swarming presents?
Asked Applejack. Their ma sat down between them and took the book in her front hooves.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Little Mac narrowed his eyes, but before he could voice his suspicions, his mother spoke again.
This story was read to me when I was about your age, Junior. It's called Robin Hood and His Merry Mares.
I've heard of that story, but I never read it.
Said Little Mac.
Didn't Robin Hood steal from the rich to give to the poor?
What?
Applejack's jaw dropped.
This story's about a thief? What kind of story is this?
Ma giggled.
Just like your pa. Don't worry, hon. See, Robin Hood only stole back what the evil Prince Khan already stole from the ponies.
Oh.
AJ visibly relaxed.
That's all right then.
Who names their kid Prince Khan?
Asked Little Mac.
It was short for Zircon. Y'all want to hear the story?
She cracked open the book.
I never got the impression that this story has a ton of magic.
He hopped up onto his bed and peered over her shoulder.
It doesn't have any magic ladies popping out of lakes or throwing mystical swords at unicorn princes, no, but it does have an earth pony outsmarting an evil unicorn prince and his corrupt Pegasus sheriff.
Her lightly freckled cheeks crinkled her eyes as she glanced up at him.
Okay, I'll give it a chance,
Said Little Mac with a nod. Applejack snuggled against Ma's side as she began the story.
About a century after the three tribes united under the Alicorn Princess Celestia's rule, she was called away to deal with a threat from Griffinstone. She put her distant cousin, Prince Zircon, or Khan as he was known, in charge of the nation while she was away.
Was he kin to Princess Platinum too?
Asked AJ, craning her neck to stare up at her Ma.
Was she still alive?
None of the original founders were still alive now. I believe he was Platinum's grandson, but the book doesn't say. Now then, Princess Celestia kept on raising the sun and moon from Griffinstone, but sent no messages back to Equestria. Every pony expected her to be gone for a few moons, a year at most, but 1 year turned into 2, and then 3. Prince Khan began to think he was the real ruler of the kingdom, and he began raising taxes to an unreasonable amount, and kept all the coin for himself. He didn't even put it into programs that could help ponies. Worst of all, if ponies couldn't afford to pay their taxes, they were sent to prison.
That's awful,
Said Applejack, snuggling closer to their mother.
So Robin Hood decided to do something about it. He gathered together a group of adventurous outcasts to steal back the gold. I hope you don't mind that there are some Earth Pony sidekicks, Little Mac, but there are Unicorn and Pegasus sidekicks too.
Ma winked at him.
That's fun.
Said Little Mac. Since it was a long story, their Ma didn't finish it that night. She only read the first 2 chapters. After she reached a good stopping point, she asked,
What do you think of the story so far?
It's good. I don't know if I like it better than Prince Swordfighter, but I'll give it a chance.
He laid down on his bed.
I like it.
Said Applejack.
I want to find out what happens at the archery contest.
She yawned and rubbed the corner of one eye.
Best get to bed now, hun.
Ma rubbed AJ's back before turning to Little Mac.
What about you, Little Mac? Do you feel too old to be tucked into bed?
He thought for a second.
Nope.
His Ma drew his covers up to his chin and tucked them in around his sides. Then she kissed his forehead.
Good night, Sugar Cube. Sweet dreams. Don't let the nightmares run wild.
Why do you always say that? It ain't like I have any control over my dreams.
Ma blinked.
I don't rightly know. It's just something
Her voice caught in her throat, and she suddenly looked like her favorite hen had died.
It's something I was told growing up.
Ma, what's wrong?
Little Mac lifted his head to stare at her with concern.
Oh, nothing you need worry about, hun.
Her smile didn't reach her blue eyes.
Good night.
Well, if you're sure.
He knew something was bothering his mother, but it was plain that she didn't want to talk about it.
Good night, Ma. Good night, AJ.
Night, Mac.
His sister yawned again.
Come on, baby girl.
Ma scooped her up and set her on top of her back like she weighed nothing at all. Little Mac waited until she turned off his light and her hoof steps retreated down the hallway. Then he turned on his bedside lamp and picked up the book his mother had left on the side table. He idly flipped it open and found a note written in block letters inside the cover.
To PB. I hope you love this story as much as I do. Love, Paul.
Little Mac frowned in confusion. Who was PB? Maybe the B could stand for Buttercup, his mother's name. But what in the world could the P stand for? Was this from her pa, or did she get the book's second hoof with the note already written to some pony else? And why did Ma ever talk about her ma and pa anyway? Had they died? Mac read the note again and then closed the book and shut off the lamp. Maybe he'd ask Ma about it in the morning, but he doubted he'd ever get a straight answer. Ma was a tough nut to crack. He fell asleep, dreaming of hiding out in the woods from the Sheriff of Trottingham and his ponies. The end.
So, that was my reading of Little Mac's Hero. I hope you enjoyed it, as well as my new format for my fic readings. And special thanks to my 4 collaborators, True Sailor Comet for voicing Pear Butter, Jaywalk for voicing Little Mac, Izzy Fizzy for voicing Philly Applejack, and Ilya Leonov for voicing Grandpere. Anyway, thanks for watching, and this is Jacob, signing off.